Hello everybody, I am Tom and you are watching my speculative class guide series for Larian Studios' upcoming Baldur's Gate 3. As noted, because Baldur's Gate 3 is not out yet and we don't know everything, this video is speculative. This is based off the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition ruleset, which Larian has said they're going to base their own ruleset off as closely as practical, so I feel pretty confident using it as a baseline for these videos. If you're unaware of any of the basic concepts around D&D or Baldur's Gate more generally, I have a tutorial kind of video about the basics of D&D that you can find right here, or in the description. But without further ado, today we're going to take a look at... If you were to ask the average person for a name for someone that casts spells and wields magic, they would probably tell you wizard. The ubiquitous nature of the class makes it for being one of the most popular classes in D&D, and I'd wager it's likely going to be one of the most popular in Baldur's Gate 3 as well. As always, I'll go over the class features and abilities in order of acquisition, starting with the inherent features. Starting with hit points, you have a 1d6 for a hit dice. That means you have very little health, which makes sense. You want to be a squishy wizard. So at first level you have 6 HP plus your constitution modifier, and every level above first, you get to either roll a 1d6, or you take the average of 4, add your constitution modifier, and you get that much additional HP. As far as proficiencies, no armor, unfortunately. Can't wear armor as a wizard. Weapons, you get daggers, slings, darts, quarterstaves, and light crossbows. So you can have a weapon as a fallback, but by far, spell slinging is going to be what you're going to be doing most. There are no tool proficiencies, but you are proficient in intelligence and wisdom saving throws, and you get to choose 2 skills between Arcana, History, Insight, Investigation, Medicine, and Religion. At level 1 as a wizard, you gain the ability to cast spells, and arguably, the wizard is the best of the best when it comes to spellcasting. Wizards have cantrips, like other spellcasting classes. These are the spells that they inherently know and they just always have and can cast at will. You get 3 cantrips at level 1, and you get more as you level up, as shown on the table that's up right now. Wizards also have spell slots, again shown on the table, that determine how many spells they can cast before requiring a long rest. Where wizards differ a bit from other spellcasters is that the spells that they have access to. You have a spell book. At level 1, it has 6 first level spells recorded in it, and every level over first you get to add 2 more wizard spells to the book for free. However, you can also copy spells that you find out in the world into your spellbook, given sufficient time and gold investment of course, but at any point you can just do this. For instance, if you find a spell scroll or you find another wizard spellbook, you can take 2 hours and 50 gold pieces worth of materials, it's usually special inks and papers, per level of the spell, and learn that spell and transcribe it into your own spellbook. Now, you've got a spellbook, it has a bunch of spells in it. You still must prepare which spells you're going to take for the day. You can prepare a number of spells equal to your wizard level plus your intelligence modifier, and they are chosen from your spellbook. So the spells that you have access to per day is a subset of all of the spells in your spellbook. As I always say with spellcasting, this is kinda hard to explain if you aren't playing, so feel free to ask any questions you might have in the comments. As far as the TLDR, you collect and transcribe spells into your grimoire, and then once per day you get to pick a subset of those spells, and they're the spells that you can cast throughout the day. Wizards are masters of magic in the most academic way. They study it and they practice it until it is second nature to them. As such, they can harness their magical potential better than most other spellcasters. Over a short rest, you can regain 1 spell slot equals half your wizard level, rounded up. For instance, a level 5 wizard can regain up to 3 levels of spells. Now, that can be in any combination, so you could do 3 first level spells, 1 third level spell, or I suppose 1 second level spell, and then 1 first level. That's all 3 of the options you have there. Moving on, we can go on to level 2, where you gain your specialization, or arcane tradition. This is essentially your subclass, and I'll go over these more in depth relatively soon, but in essence, you choose to specialize in one of the 8 schools of magic. Depending on your choice, you get a different feature at level 2, 6, and 10. And finally, before moving straight on to the subclasses, we have the ability score improvement at level 4, and again at level 8, exactly the same as all the other classes. Okay, so now, already, we're onto the subclasses for the wizard. The wizard is actually one of the easier classes to understand, outside of their spellcasting, which conversely is probably one of the most complex of all the classes. But moving on, just in alphabetical order, I'm going to go through all of the subclasses, starting with Abjuration. An Abjura wizard focuses on protective magic that banish, block, or guard against other spells. At level 2, when you choose this school of magic, you gain Abjuration Savant. The time and money cost for transcribing abjuration spells into your spellbook is halved. This level 2 skill, just called insert magic school here, Savant, is present in all of the subclasses, and hence I won't repeat it over and over again as going forward, but it just means that you have a better understanding of those specific types of spells, and hence you likely have more of them in your spellbook. They're easier for you to learn because you have an idea about that school of magic. But moving on, also at level 2, you have an inherent understanding of protective magics. Whenever you cast an abjuration spell of first level or higher, you siphon off some of the magic and create a ward around yourself. That ward has hit points maximum of 2 times your wizard level, plus your intelligence modifier. This ward acts pretty much exactly the same as temporary hit points, which is to say you kind of have a shield above your real health that absorbs damage before you take the damage to your HP directly. When the ward hits 0 hit points, it isn't gone, the magic's still there, and whenever you cast an abjuration spell thereafter, the ward gains back HP equal to twice whatever that spell level is. When you reach level 6 as an abjurer, you have learned to project your ward out to protect your allies. When a creature you see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to throw your ward up around them, absorbing the damage for them rather than yourself. And then moving on finally to level 10, you gain improved abjuration. When you cast an abjuration spell that requires you to make an ability check as part of the casting, this includes things like counterspell or dispel magic, you get to add your proficiency bonus to the ability check, which is just nice. It just makes it easier to succeed in lots of spells. Next, we move on to conjuration magic. Conjurers favour magic that temporarily creates objects out of thin air or summons them more permanently from other realms of existence. This school also includes kind of like teleportation and transportation magic. But at level 2 you gain Conjuration Savant, as with all of these subclasses. You also gain a feature called Minor Conjuration. As an action, you can conjure an inanimate object in your hand or on the ground up to 10 feet away from you. This object can be no larger than 3 feet on any one side, and weigh no more than 10 pounds. This object is also visibly magic. It kind of radiates a low glow in about a 5 meter radius. So if someone looks at it and they're in any way intelligent, they're going to be able to tell that's a magic item. However, you can use it for distractions. You can use it if you want a rock to throw something, you can just conjure a rock. It's useful. The object disappears after an hour if it takes any damage, or if you create a new object. When you reach level 6 as a conjurer, you gain the ability to teleport yourself 30 feet. You can also use this feature to switch teleport with an ally, swapping places with them as long as they're within that same 30 feet distance. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until either you take a long rest, or you cast a conjuration spell. If you cast a conjuration spell, it kind of resets this ability and you can do it again. At level 10, you gain focused conjuration. When concentrating on a conjuration spell, your concentration cannot be broken by taking damage. I don't think I've actually gone over concentration yet, so I'll go over this now, and this is off the cuff, I'm not actually reading this off script. But concentration, effectively, there are some spells that have a duration, and you have to concentrate on those spells while it's happening. Essentially, you're continuously casting that spell. And while you're concentrating on that spell, you can't concentrate on another one. So if you have 2 spells that have concentration, if you try and cast a second one, you drop the concentration on the first one and it stops having an effect. You can also break your concentration if you get hit by an attack. If you're damaged, there's a chance that it breaks your concentration. If, however, you're a level 10 Conjurer Wizard, as long as you're concentrating on a conjuration spell, you can take half your HP and damage, just absolutely destroyed, but it won't break your concentration. You're just really good at focusing on that spell. Next up, we have the School of Divination. A diviner focuses on magic that gives them greater insight, whether that be scrying over great distances or peering into past and the future alike to gain understanding. At level 2, along with Divination Savant, you also begin to naturally gain affinity with glimpses of the future. When you finish a long rest, roll 2 d20s and record the results. You can replace any attack roll, saving throw, or ability check made by either you or a character you can see, and you can just kind of replace it with one of these foretold rolls. At level 6 as a diviner, you're an expert at divination. Whenever you cast a divination spell of 2nd level or higher, you regain a lower level spell slot. There's no stipulations on that just happens. It's pretty good. Finally, at level 10, the diviner gains access to the 3rd eye. As an action, you can increase your powers of perception. Choose one of the following options, which lasts until you take a short or a long rest, and you can't be used again until you finish a long rest. For starters, you can choose Dark Vision. You gain 60 feet of Dark Vision. It's fantastic. If you can't see in the dark, now you can. Ethereal Sight, you can see into the ethereal plane within 60 feet. I have in my notes here literally just ghosts and shit after this, because the ethereal plane is a parallel plane to the real world, and it's kind of where ghosts pass in and out of. There's a few spells that'll take you in there and out of there, but with this you can see into it. Next up we have Greater Comprehension. You can just give yourself the ability to read and understand any language. Very, very useful. And finally, you can see invisibility. So you can see invisible creatures and objects, however you can only see them within 10 feet of you, so that's worth noting. You have to be right up next to them before you can see them. Moving on now, we have the Enchanters. Enchantment magic is that which beguiles or otherwise forces a person or monster to your whim. As a level 2 enchanter, you get the regular Savant ability, however you also gain Hypnotic Gaze. As an action, you can choose a creature within 5 feet of you. That creature must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be charmed by you for the round. They cannot move, and they appear as if they're in a kind of daze to anybody else looking, so it's pretty obvious to other people that you're doing it. So it doesn't really work in a crowd, but one-on-one works quite well. You can use your action on subsequent turns to continue the effect. However, if you move more than 5 feet away from the creature you're trying to hypnotize, or that creature takes damage, then the effect is ended. At level 6, you can use your Charming Presence to attempt to make an attacking creature attack another. What this means is when you're attacked by an enemy within 30 feet, you can use your reaction to force them to make a wisdom saving throw. If they fail that save, they have to attack whatever target is closest to you, but isn't you. Once a creature is successfully saved from this ability, it can't be used again until you finish a long rest. It's worth noting here that, once again, this ability isn't limited to how many times you can use it, just how many times you can use it on a specific character. So if you're doing it on one enemy, you can do it multiple times on the same enemy until they save from it, and as soon as they make the save, then you can't use it on them again, effectively ever, unless you're fighting them a second time after you've taken a long rest, but that's usually not very likely. And finally, at level 10, you'll learn to manipulate your enchantment spells to great effect. When you cast an enchantment spell that targets one creature, you can instead target 2 with the same spell. So now we move on to the big dick energy of magic schools, Evocation. Evokers are the main damage dealers of the wizard world. They sling out fireballs and lightning bolts left, right and centre. At level 2, when you choose this school, you gain the Savant ability, as well as becoming a spell sculptor. What this means is you've honed your destructive forces, so you can, to a degree, create areas of relative safety within the area of effect of your spells. When you cast an evocation spell that affects other creatures, you can choose a number of them equal to 1 plus your spell's level, and those chosen creatures automatically succeed on their saving throw. This means that, yeah, you can literally just throw a fireball on your own party and have all of them come out unscathed, while burning the hell out of all the opponents attacking them. It's really cool. I love the the flavor of this ability. The idea you can throw a fireball, and then there's just these pockets within the fireball that are safe, because you have such good control over the fire. It's one of the cooler abilities in my mind. But next up at level 6, we have Potent Cantrips. All of your damaging cantrips that require a saving throw now do half as much damage if the creature saves on the throw. And finally at level 10 you gain Empowered Evocation. You can add your intelligence modifier to one roll of your evocation spells. The wording on this one is a little odd, but essentially means that you're rolling multiple dice for a spell, you only add your modifier once. For example, a fireball does 8d6 damage, so if you had an int modifier of 4, you'd only add 4 damage, not an additional 32 damage, not adding 4 damage per dice, you're just adding 4 damage on top of whatever you roll. Now we move on to the illusion magic. Illusionists create incredibly real-looking visual and auditory hallucinations. Many are rather benign tricksters, however there are others that use these deceptive skills to frighten or fool others for personal gain. As always, you gain the Savant ability at level 2. Additionally, you gain Improved Minor Illusion. For starters, you gain the cantrip, Minor Illusion. If you already know this spell, you can choose another cantrip and you get to learn that one, but this spell doesn't count against the number of cantrips on your known list. Ordinarily, Minor Illusion can create either an illusory image or an illusory sound. When you cast this spell, however, you can do both in the same casting of the spell. So it essentially just buffs this cantrip for you. Moving on to level 6, as an illusionist you gain Malleable Illusions. When you cast an illusion spell that lasts for 1 minute or longer, you can use your action to alter the illusion as you see fit, so long as you can see it. And then at level 10 as an illusion specialist, you are really good at illusion magic to the point that often it happens on instinct. When you're attacked by an enemy, you can use your reaction to create an illusory copy of yourself that tanks the hit. The attack against you automatically misses, and the illusion is dissipated. You can use this feature once per short rest. Next, we move on to one of the most popular schools of magic, necromancy. Necromancers, as the name might suggest, focus on magic that manipulates death, and more generally, the veil between life and death. Not only reanimating the dead, but also many divine cleric spells that bring the dead back to life are also fall under this school of magic. So not just sort of reanimating and making a corpse do what you want, but also bringing the dead back to life is still counted as necromancy. Along with Necromancy Savant at level 2, you also gain Grim Harvest. When you kill an enemy with one of your spells, you leech off some of the life energy and vitality. Specifically, you regain a number of hit points equal to double the level of the spell. If, however, it's a necromancy spell, then you get triple the HP of whatever the spell's level is. When you reach level 6, you are more adept at controlling the dead. You learn the Animate Dead spell if you didn't know it already, and whenever you cast this spell, you can raise 2 dead instead of 1. Additionally, any corpse or skeleton that you raise has additional HP of your wizard level, and they get to use your proficiency bonus when they attack, so they're hitting more often. Also, they survive a bit longer. And then lastly, when you reach level 10, you are so entrenched into the machinations of the undead that you are less vulnerable to their effects. You have resistance to necrotic damage, and your HP maximum can never be reduced from any source. And finally, we move on to the last subclass, the School of Transmutation. Transmuters are masters of making one thing and transforming it into another. Transmutation magic is, at its highest levels, arguably one of the most powerful magics in Faerun, and as such, those that choose this specialization are often lofty in their goals. Along with Transmutation Savant, when you choose this school, you also get the ability to temporarily alter the makeup of small objects. For instance, carving wooden coins and turning them into silver, there's a good chance you'll get caught, but if you need money in a pinch, it'll work. Specifically, you can transmute wood, stone, iron, copper, and silver from one of those materials and turn it into one of the other materials. It takes about 10 minutes, and for every 10 minutes you spend, you can transmute up to 1 cubic feet of material. It does only last for 1 hour, however. This is a temporary transformation and it will revert back. Hence, very good chance you'll get caught if you take wooden coins and turn them into silver, because after an hour, they're turning back into wood. At level 6, you can create a Transmuter's Stone. You spend 8 hours and store transmutation magic into an otherwise mundane stone. You can use the stone yourself or give it to others, and it can confer one of the following effects. It can give you dark vision out to a range of 60 feet, an increase to your speed of 10 feet while your creature is unencumbered. You can get proficiency in constitution saving throws, or resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage. You choose which one it is whenever you do it. You don't get resistance to all of them, you just choose which one it is. And each time you cast a transmutation spell, you can choose to swap this benefit for one of the other ones. And then lastly, at level 10, you become a Master Shape Changer. You learn the Polymorph spell if you didn't know it already, and you can choose to cast this spell without expending a spell slot, so long as the target of the spell is yourself, and you only transform into a lowish level beast, specifically up to a challenge rating level 1 beast. This includes things as brown bears, direwolves, a lion. They're all challenge rating 1 beasts, so you can transform yourself into one of those if you wish. Once you cast Polymorph in this way, you can't do so again until after a short rest. You can, however, still normally cast a spell using a spell slot. And that's it for all the abilities. There are quite a few subclasses there for the old wizard. Now onto my build tips and suggestions. I don't have a whole lot for this, but we'll do what we do. First things first, intelligence is vitally important for a wizard. They learn their magic through rigorous study, and as such, their memory and book learning is essential. Going on with that, you probably want to pick a race that gives you a boost to intelligence. Specifically, think gnomes, high elves, tieflings, all make really good picks here. I'm really not sure what else I can really add here. Wizards is such a staple of high fantasy that I feel like anything I'd add would be blindingly obvious to most people. And as such, I'm just going to leave the video here, so if you like the video, please leave a like. If you aren't subscribed, please consider subscribing, and as always, thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time. As an aside, for those of you who made it to the end of the video, what do you guys want to see going forward for Baldur's Gate 3 content from me? I was thinking going over some of the more iconic monsters of DnD, or perhaps some videos on the playable races. Let me know what you guys want to see. There's probably about a month or so, just over a month, before early access launches. And obviously when that launches, I'm going to have lots of videos because I'm going to have early access content. But up until that point, let me know what you guys want to see, if anything. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, guys.